I'll never forget the morning everything began to fall apart. It's etched into me like a scar. As usual, I was up before sunrise, coffee in hand, sitting on the porch while the fog pulled back from the little lake behind my house. That lake wasn't some accident of nature. My brother Michael and I built it more than 50 years ago, stone by stone, turning a small creek into something alive. Michael's been gone a decade now, but that dam was part of him, part of us. It was a promise we made together, to the land and to each other. It fed my orchard, kept the frogs singing, the birds nesting, and the homes downhill safe whenever storms came. But that morning, something waiting on my gate sent my heart racing, a certified letter. Anyone who's lived long enough knows those slips rarely bring good news. I opened it at the kitchen counter with a butter knife. Sure enough, it was from the Oak Ridge Estates HOA. They claimed my dam was unauthorized, called it an eyesore, and gave me 30 days to tear it down, or they'd do it themselves and charge me for it. My land. The soil Michael and I bought, bled over, and built with our own hands. I just stared at those words, convinced there had to be a mistake. Someone on their board clearly didn't know how to read a map. So I brought the original county survey, 1968, crisp as the day it was stamped, and showed up at the next HOA meeting. I sat there through their chatter, waiting until my turn came. I stood, introduced myself, and unrolled that survey like a flag in battle. I pointed right at the thick black line, my property. My dam, not theirs. For a moment, I thought maybe reason still counted. A neighbor, Linda Garvey, spoke up. She said her basement stayed dry every storm because of that dam. Even an old Army colonel gave his agreement. Then Karen Whitfield, the HOA president, stepped in. She wore control like jewelry, sharp haircut, stiff blazer, gavel tapping like she was presiding over a courtroom. With a politician's smile, she thanked me for my input, then waved a stack of papers she called expert reports. From 20 feet away, I could tell the county seal on them was nothing but a fuzzy photocopy. My engineer's gut screamed forgery, but I had no way to prove it right then. Karen declared my dam a liability and said demolition was already scheduled. Just like that, dismissed. That's when I realized this wasn't ignorance. It was war. 3 weeks later, I heard the rumble, diesel engines, the ground shaking. Not thunder. Bulldozers. At my gate stood 2 dozers, a flatbed, Karen with her clipboard like a field commander, and Deputy Nolan, an off-duty sheriff doubling as HOA muscle. He waved what he called a court order. I zoomed in with my phone, wrong parcel number. Didn't even belong to me. I told him, but Karen brushed it off as a clerical error. Everyone knew which dam this was, she said. I stood my ground, phone recording everything. But the deputy opened my gate, and the machines rolled in. They climbed that earthen wall, dropped their steel blades, and tore apart 50 years of work, sweat, and memory. Stones Michael and I had placed by hand toppled like bones. The lake burst out, rushing through the gap until nothing was left but mud and silence. Karen stood with her hands on her hips, smiling like she'd won a prize. I lowered my phone, looked her in the eye, and said, "You can't vote against gravity." For weeks afterward, I walked the dry basin each morning. No frogs, no birds, just cracked mud and silence. The HOA sent a glossy newsletter with Karen grinning under a headline about the eyesore removed. She turned their destruction into a photo op. I saved every scrap, newsletters, recordings, letters. Engineers keep records. That's how we fight. Later, I went to the county office. A young clerk looked up the permit number Karen had waved around. He frowned, tried again, then leaned in and whispered, "Sir, that number doesn't exist. Never has." He couldn't say more, but he didn't need to. That was fraud. I wrote his words down the moment I stepped outside. Then came the rain. Forecast called it the heaviest in 15 years. And I knew exactly what would happen. Without that dam, the water would race straight downhill. No stopping it. I set up 4 weatherproof cameras, one facing the breach, one in the creek bed, and 2 on the pristine lawns of Oak Ridge Estates. Then I let the sky do the rest. The first storm rolled in that July. From my study, I watched the live feeds. Camera 1 showed the breach turning from a muddy trickle into a roaring channel. Camera 2 caught the creek surging like it hadn't in decades. Cameras 3 and 4 showed water creeping across patios, swallowing flower beds, inching toward basements, exactly what I'd warned would happen. By morning, Sidewalks were coated in muck, and panic started spreading. Karen tried to calm everyone with a smug message on the HOA hotline. Just summer showers. Clear your drains. I saved that audio too. Week after week, storms kept coming. Lawns became swamps, million-dollar landscaping drowned, basements flooded. Algae bloomed, mosquitoes multiplied, the air turned sour with rot. I documented it all, high-resolution photos, videos, notes. The HOA message board lit up with complaints, ruined gardens, sinking driveways, mold infestations. Karen's response never changed. Acts of nature, your responsibility. She blamed the very people suffering from her decision. The next HOA meeting was bedlam. Packed room, homeowners shouting about plummeting property values and flooded basements. Karen couldn't control it, so she turned on me, pointed her finger, and screamed, "This is sabotage," accused me of blocking storm drains to make her look bad. It was laughable, but desperation made her convincing, and some folks were desperate enough to believe it. That night, Deputy Nolan parked his cruiser outside my gate, lights flashing, sitting there like a warning. Intimidation. But I just thought, thank you, Karen. You've tipped into desperation. Desperate people make mistakes. I turned my kitchen table into a war room. Spread out everything, her certified letter, my 1968 survey, her glossy newsletter with that golden shovel photo, the hotline audio, the bogus permit beside a real county document, the engineering report she ignored. And then I pulled out my ace, Earl, my old friend, a retired civil engineer with 5 decades of credibility. He studied her so-called permit and chuckled. "Frank, this forgery is an insult to forgers." Then he laid it out plain. A dam isn't ugly. It's hydraulic insurance. Take it away, the energy has to go somewhere. She pulled the trigger on her own neighborhood. Earl agreed to testify on record. I sent the whole package to Mark Reynolds, an investigative reporter at Channel 8 known for chasing corruption. Within a week, he was calling, interviewing Earl, Linda, other neighbors. He confirmed the permit number was fake. Then he aired the story in prime time, drone shots of Oak Ridge Estates underwater, side-by-side comparisons of the forged document, my videos, Earl explaining calmly, "You can't vote against gravity." The kicker. Reynolds caught Karen in the parking lot, camera in her face. "Miss Whitfield, did you use a fraudulent permit to demolish the dam?" She panicked, hid behind her purse, and bolted for her SUV. The slam of her car door was sweeter than music. But nature wasn't done. October delivered the storm of storms, 12 straight hours of rain. My cameras caught the creek turning into a freight train of brown water, slamming straight into the cul-de-sac. Cars half submerged. Basements turned into rivers. Streets waist-deep in filthy runoff. By morning, fire trucks and news vans crowded the neighborhood. Insurance adjusters in rubber boots shook their heads. The county slapped a huge orange cease and desist, under investigation for fraud and negligence sign on the HOA clubhouse. A town hall was called the high school gym, packed wall-to-wall. People furious, shouting Karen down. She tried to shout back, unprecedented weather, sabotage, but no one was buying it anymore. Then the sheriff walked in with 2 deputies. He went straight to the podium and said, "Karen Whitfield, you're under arrest for felony document forgery and reckless endangerment." The gym went dead quiet as the cuffs snapped around her wrists. Then one clap, then another, until the whole place erupted in applause. After that, the HOA was placed in receivership. The county sent in engineers, accountants, and a temporary board to untangle the wreckage she'd left behind. They eventually approved rebuilding the dam, this time paid for with HOA insurance. When the construction crew arrived, the neighbors came too. Gus brought a shovel, Linda's husband hauled rocks, and even the kids pitched in, planting grass along the banks. Together, we built it back, stronger, smarter, better. A few weeks later, the water rose again. Birds returned to the trees, frogs sang at dusk, and children tossed stones across the new lake. I stood there, breathing in the damp air, watching sunlight flicker across the surface, and for the first time in months, I felt peace. That's when it hit me. People can forge papers, push their power, bully their neighbors, even tear down something built on love, but they can't rewrite the laws of gravity, nature, or truth. Those forces always win in the end. So I'll leave you with this. What do you think? Was Karen just another power-drunk president, or was she a symptom of a system that hands too much control to the wrong people? And what about me? Was I right to document everything and wait for nature to prove my point? Or should I have fought harder in court before the storms came? Drop your thoughts below. I want to know if you side with community, with law, or with the quiet, relentless power of gravity.